Can you imagine being at church and the pastor began the sermon with, I swear, none of us are drunk. And perhaps you've been to churches where you've had suspicions that the priest got into the communion wine a little too early. But in Acts 2, Peter begins his first sermon with, guys, I swear, we haven't been drinking. Not because Peter felt like that kind of behavior was below the disciples, but just more practically, it was only 9 a.m. in the morning. Clearly, Peter had never been tailgating for a football game. Anyway, what we find in Acts 2, following the outpouring of the Spirit, is the first sermon preached in the early church. That is, if we take Pentecost as the moment of the church's official formation, there's some debate on that. Anyway, you get the idea. That's a little long for me to read in its entirety. So rather than doing so, I'd like to encourage you to take some time reading the words of Peter's sermon this week in Acts 2. If you do, what you'll see is that Peter links what's happening in the outpouring of the Spirit to a prophecy found in the book of Joel. Then from there, he goes on to make the case that Jesus is the long-awaited Christ, the Messiah and heir to the throne of David. Not only that, even his resurrection was foretold. Now, this was important because the early church had to show that while God was clearly doing a new thing, it was a promised new thing. They might not have understood the prophecies as such, but now it was revealed. This had been God's plan all along. And here's what I love about this passage. In verse 23, Peter says, this man was handed over to you by God's deliberate plan and foreknowledge, and you, with the help of wicked men, put him to death by nailing him to the cross. And then in verse 36, he says, therefore, let all Israel be assured of this. God has made this Jesus, whom you crucified, both Lord and Messiah. That's not hyperbole. There's a sense where all of us are complicit. All of us are guilty for Christ's crucifixion. We all have a part in it. But when Peter says, you put him to death, you crucified him, we can be confident that some of these folks standing in the audience that Peter was preaching to were standing before Pilate 50 some days before, shouting, crucify him, crucify him. And this was the same Peter who had cowered, whimpering 3 times, I don't know him, I don't know him, I don't know him. That's an incredible transformation. That's what the Holy Spirit does. That's why Jesus told the disciples to wait to be clothed with that kind of power. First off, it's the kind of miraculous power that drew crowds. As Jesus' ministry was accompanied by signs and wonders, so would be the disciples. But it wasn't all just lights and sounds. There was a miraculous power simply to stand firm and to deliver bold words to the very people who had handed Jesus over. Lastly, bumbling Peter, who never turned down an opportunity to put his foot in his mouth, was given the power to see and speak clearly and authoritatively about what God had done in Christ. I don't want to put God in a box, but I'm not expecting pyrotechnics in everyday life. I'm just not. But I do expect that the Holy Spirit still wants to work in and through our lives in such a way where people will stop and ask, and what's the meaning of this? And I think the Holy Spirit wants to continue to work through us and enable us to stand our ground in boldness. And as Peter himself encouraged us in his first letter, to give an answer for the hope that we have. May we be clothed in that kind of power. And to God be the glory. Have a blessed week, church.